Hey, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Office Hours, where we answer your questions 7 days a week. Alexander, what's our first one?
First question this morning is coming from David Brady in New York City, New York, USA. There are times where we have to stream from a 1080i source. Are there any encoders that can do the conversion to 1080p without the need for an outboard scaler like an ImagePro or Decimator?
Alex?
The only encoder that I know of that does it well is an elemental appliance. So there are other ones that will do it, but the question is how do they do it? So there's two fields, as you know, David, and basically there's what you need to do is what we used to do is try to combine those and try to remove the edges and so on and so forth. But as scalers got better, the technology, and the first company to do this that I know of is Apple, which is that they realized, oh, you know what? We could just throw away one of the fields and scale the other field up. And that's because our scaling technology got better than our deinterlacing technology. And so what they do is they just throw one of the fields away, scale the other field up to the full size, and that called a day. so that is the but the only encoder that I haven't tested. I will admit, David, I have not tested a 1080i in a decade. So I don't know. It may have gotten better. Some of these may have done it. But what you want to do is take a black and white graphic and animate it through your frame like this in 1080i, and then run it into your encoder, and it should be smooth edged on a 1080p conversion. It might be a little softer than it was in the original, but it should be smooth edged. If you see any kind of jagged edges, it's not doing it properly, or not doing it in a modern way.
Guy?
Yeah, I can't really vouch for this company, but they said they've been working on it for 4 years, and it is finally shipping. It's a company called Salbre Works, and they announced this at IBC 2024. It's called the Endor, NDOR, and it's a 4K encoder that does support 1080i. They claim it's the only one, so I would take a look at it, but buy it from somewhere where you can return it if it doesn't keep up with expectations, because that's a big lift. I mean, usually we would just throw like a up-down cross in front of whatever encoder that we love and rely on. So that's a tough one. But yeah, I'd say give the Endor by Salbre Works a try, but make sure you can return it.
Next question.
This one is coming from Harold Williams in Portsmouth. I'm currently testing the Sony Ci Media Cloud for our conferences, and I was impressed by the upload speeds. However, I quickly realized that sending a 100 gig video file was unreasonable. What is an acceptable file size for sending a video to a team?
Alex?
It just depends on their connection on the other side. You got to ask them, how long is, if you send me a 100 gig file, it won't take me, I have a 1 gig connection. So I'm going to be able to download that at about 150 megabits. So it would take me less than a half an hour to pull 100 gigs down. So, and that would, so if your file size and you want to have that there, it just really depends on the other side. So I don't think 100 gigs is unreasonable. I've definitely uploaded more than that, 400, 500 gig files, and had people download them. If they're not using something that is something like Sony Ci Media Cloud or Frame.io or my brain, but I haven't used it with LucidLink. I haven't done files that big with LucidLink. What I was thinking of was another service that we've used, Aspera. We'll definitely do it because all of those ones are able to recover from a break. So if they take a break, they're going to be able to recover the file and seamlessly bring it down for those three. And they also do what you've noticed, which is they saturate your internet line. So you got to make sure that you also are on a protected internet line. You're on a VLAN that isn't going to crush everybody else, because both Aspera, Sony Media Cloud, as well as Frame.io will use every bit that your router will let it. So they all use multi streams at the same time to move everything across, and so they just suck up the whole pipe.
Guy?
Yeah, I would ask, why do you need to send one that big? Is it paramount that you do the full meal deal? Can they edit in a proxy environment, or can you put it up on the cloud somewhere where they could be on the ground and manipulate that file or pieces of the file? Do they need the whole thing, or are they just going to extract just a tiny piece of it? Because, yeah, like Alex said, if you use the normal folks like Sony or Aspera, they will just saturate that line, and if it's not properly managed with QoS, then they might suck up somebody else that's trying to upload as well and under a deadline, and all of a sudden you've saturated everything and people are bogging down. The other thing is Strata Agents is coming out, and we should, I guess I'll go ahead and announce it now. We'll have Michael Cioni on the last Friday of this month, and he's going to show agents. And what agents do is they allow you to scrub a file that's on a hard drive without downloading it at that moment. What it's doing is it's taking an H.264 conversion in real time of any assets that you have on any hard drive. So you could even have a big server, or you could have a Dropbox that's local or in the cloud, and you could be scrubbing those files remotely and giving people permission, and then later on let them pull down what they need to pull down. So my question is just, why would you need to send a 100 gig file unless you have to? And then, yeah, I would say the other alternatives would be Amazon S3 or somewhere. That those guys are most likely using a derivative of Amazon S3, like Frame.io. I'm pretty sure is that. But yeah, and then Sony's just super expensive. I've used it, and it's amazing when you watch something go up that fast. It's just like it's almost like you could hear the sucking of everything going up, because it's impressive.
Alex?
Yeah, and the reason we've had conferences where we just don't have the space, we don't have the people, so on and so forth, to do the re-edits. So there's a sessions, and these sessions are 45 minutes long. We've got 3 cameras and the screen, and we're dumping all of those in ProRes out because they're being recut, and they want to they want to be able to recut possibly some color correction, so on and so forth. We can't compress them, so we definitely, and we will do that. We might have 4 of those per hour to put up that have each file. So there's basically 16 files that are easily over 100 gigs because we're recording in 422 HQ because they want to be able to do color correction at the highest level. And so we'll be pumping those things out every hour. And now, admittedly, again, it just depends on the bandwidth that you have and the bandwidth that the other side has. In these cases, the editors on the other side had at least a gig, and oftentimes more to download it, and we had a 10 gig pipe. So to push it up, and so but again, it's not, the reasonableness is not the size of the file. The reasonableness is who has what bandwidth you have on site and what bandwidth you have remotely.
Guy?
Yeah, to add to that, if you do get into trouble, one of the nice things is being able to fire up either a shadow PC that has a pretty good bandwidth, or definitely a full meal deal Amazon EC2 instance that does 3,000. So for $1.94 a minute, you can have a 3,000 kilobit per second connection, which is pretty good. And for a little bit more, you could even get higher, up to 10 gig on a I'm not sure if it's an 8X or no, it's the next one up. It's a full. So you would be what they call bare metal, and then that's going to be $12 an hour. But if you just need to run Resolve and cut something really fast, and so you install Resolve on there, now you're basically just going cloud to cloud. So you could be on site, and if the Wi-Fi starts acting up and all of a sudden you're only getting 5 megabit, you're still controlling 10 gig or 3,000 kilobits per second in the cloud over a 5 megabit connection. So be aware of that, because there's nothing worse than that looming deadline and you're just watching a progress bar. But I mean, don't think that you can't do this stuff in the cloud, and just go cloud to cloud and take advantage of just transferring pixels instead of actual data.
The last piece that I would put into this is consider what is your output. If you're trying to turn something around quickly and the 100 gig file being unreasonable has to do with the download speeds, if you're cutting something quickly for social, do you need it to be the 422 HQ? Are you doing color correction? Are you doing any sort of manipulation to it? Or is it just pretty simple cutting? That might drive you to go to a lower bit rate or a different format that is not as giant. So yeah, consider your pipeline constraints all the way through. Next question.
We have a QR code question from Kjetil Flyersvold in Tromsø, Norway. Last time we played with LED walls, there was a strict no fleece dress code, as the fabric could catch on the pixels and rip them off the panel. Same here?
Courtney?
Well, the LED walls have progressed quite a bit maybe since then. The original ones that were much higher pitch had an actual TO5 LED, and it was surrounded by little blinders that were around it to keep it from spilling its color into its neighboring pixel. And those things could catch on any type of fabric with a closed loop type thing like fleece. So yeah, that was a good thing. Or you just put, while you're prepping for a show, you put a little barrier like a police line, some stanchions, some rope to keep people at least 3 feet away from the screen while you're setting up. And the thing that kills more LED screens than anything is somebody carrying a ladder and turning it around and whacking the end of the ladder into the LED screen, and that will ruin your whole day because it messes up a panel tremendously. But yeah, that's a good dress code. These days, the LEDs have gotten, cob LEDs. They're all surface mount, and sometimes they have a flat filter, and they try and go for as smooth a flat face as they can now. So not as many of them catch on things unless you're catching on the edge between one panel and the next panel. And the edges of the screen itself are the place where most of the damage occurs rather than between the panels. So,
Alex?
Yeah, you want to stay away from anything that's around these. Most of these LEDs, the newer ones are that way, but the vast majority of them in the field are going to catch on everything that goes by them. The thing that we see the most with LEDs is the edges the LEDs on the edges get nicked as they're being put in. So that's the thing that everyone has to be really. You see people yelling at somebody because they're just kind of putting them in quickly. They're like, okay, that one part of this install has to be done very carefully, because as soon as you nick a couple of those, you can't use them anymore.
Your questions and votes do drive our show. Remember to use Makana to chat, and you can also, in there, of course, ask questions and vote on the questions. If you don't have access, you can sign up at officehours.global/join, and then you also get links not only for Makana, but also Discord. There's daily email. It's great stuff. officehours.global/join. Next question.
Another QR code question from Pete Savage in Sydney, Australia. I live stream church and educational sessions in small venues. I've embraced ATEM and NDI in my setup, and I'm looking to invest in some cameras. For max flexibility, would an NDI native option or something from the Blackmagic family be better?
Alex?
I would not mix and match an ATEM and NDI. Like, these are two different languages going back and forth. So I would figure out, if you're going to use NDI, I would really look at more of a software-based or something or even hardware that natively manages NDI. But you're going to deal with you're going to deal with a lot of back and forth of, I got to convert NDI to this and I got to convert it back to that. I would not mix and match these two together.
Guy?
Yeah, it just depends on budget and what your workflow truly is at the end of the day, and where you want to go in the future, and how many other people are operating with you and what their needs are. I'm a big fan of the Canon CRN 500 for on-site cameras. If I'm able to operate a couple cameras by myself, especially at a church-type venue, usually you don't get very many operators that are high caliber enough to be able to be relied on and get you the shots that you need to get. So yeah, I'd be looking at either a PTZ or a group of PTZs that have the not only NDI on the back, but have SDI and HDMI. And that's most of them. Once you get over $1,000, like even I have a couple of the PTZ Optics Move SEs, they're $999 and they have all three flavors. So that way you can do like NDI PTZ control, but then you can come baseband back out the back and you can throw it around. It also has SRT built in, so if you do want to throw these things remote, you can do things like that. But yeah, it just depends on what you're thinking you might need NDI for, because then you get into this world of switches. So you might need some M4250 Netgear switches, which now all of a sudden to get those, you got to add that into the budget, and then the mindset of how to program all that stuff and get into this ecosystem where you got to take some classes. The NDI courses on the NDI Tools website, the community section, is pretty fantastic to go through if you want to learn a lot about NDI.
Next question.
This one is a QR code question coming from Michael Boitnott in Richmond, Virginia. Recently, my 1510 was crushed by baseplates. Just the lid and latches are broken. Will the lifetime warranty apply? If not, where's a good place to get a replacement lid for cheap?
Courtney, fix them up.
I found that Pelican's lifetime warranty is actually quite good. I've had cases that are 10 years old, and the wheels will, you'll ship them and the wheels will get stuck on one of those conveyor belts at the airport and be ground down till it's flat on one side. And I've notified Pelican, and they've sent me out a new whole, the one that has the extending handle, the whole piece unbolts from the back of the case. They sent me out that whole piece to replace it. I've had catches break on them. after a number of years of cold weather, hot weather, cold weather, and they've sent me replacement latches for the 1510s. If it shows signs of major trauma, like it was in a collision with something, like you say it was, base plates may have gone through it, they may not honor it, but generally they're warranted. They're good on their warranty. And I don't know of any place where you can buy just a replacement lid for a specific Pelican case other than Pelican, supplying it.
And Mickey in the chat chimes in and said that it's covered. Yes, it is covered by the lifetime warranty. I regularly get replacement parts shipped to me by Pelican, most often with wheels for a variety of cases every few months. It's what people sometimes complain about the price of a Pelican or the price of a lot of things. Sometimes when things are expensive, you're not just buying the product, you're buying the life cycle cost of what is it to service it. So, if you're paying a premium for something, it never hurts to reach out and ask, because I've had situations where things that I never would have thought would have been covered, then all of a sudden just a new one shows up. And when a company can surprise and delight you like that, that gets some loyalty. Next question.
This one's from Paul Valhus in Austin, Texas. What do you make of the Swedish company Klevgrand's line of audio processing and SFX products?
Courtney?
I imagine I could make some pretty interesting Swedish music pieces. They have a very good marketing department. These are a lot of plugins for synth and drum effects workstations. So they're very imaginative. Here's one, Time and Space, which is an expander, I think, or sound effects, a collection of sound effects. And this is a real audio synth. There's a synth module. There's a keyboard-based MIDI plugin. There's this one that's built of samples of environmental sounds that you can add, organic sounds of the world, the subtle sound of rustling leaves, cracking twigs, etc., that you can add to your musical library. And then they have compressors and things designed for one-shot samples for drum kits. A lot of mostly Revolve, which is an Echoplex, I think, that draws from their cultural and sonic heritage. What better, they sampled environments for reflection and built it into basically a reverb. Here's one designed just for shaker sound effects. So, and each one of them has a kind of a different look. It's kind of skeuomorphic, Splendosa music box sound effects. So it seems like they've taken a lot of time and gone through a lot of different unique sounds for assembling synth sounds for the creative people that want to get more environmental and touchy-feely into their music.
Next question.
This one is coming from Dave Brady in New York City, New York. Yesterday, Nick explained false color that even I could understand. Expanding on that, how, or rather, what is zebra stripes, and what are they used for?
Courtney?
Well, zebra stripes came about before they came up with false color, and it was used primarily in analog video, and it made its way into digital video. But it was a way of looking at anything that's overexposed in a frame, and you can set the threshold for it. And if you get to 75%, usually they kick in at 75% of full-scale white signal level before it clips, 75% before clipping, if clipping's at 100%. So it'll just paint little horizontal stripes and everything that exceeds that 70% video level in your frame. So you will see zebra stripes on anything that is too hot, and you're losing all the detail in because it's overexposed. So it's an exposure tool. It lets you find your hot spots and bring them down until the zebras go away. And then you're safe. And you can just set that trigger point between 75 and 100%. Usually you can set it lower if you want to, but usually between 75 and 100%, so that you know that when you're getting near or at 100% clip level.
And that's something that you'll see not only in video cameras, but also in still cameras. And as you're shooting more and more, I would recommend that you give yourself more headroom, even with RAW. Give yourself more headroom if you're just getting started, so that you can try and save it later. And then as you get more and more experienced of getting closer to the line of having something be blown out and overexposed, then take it from 75 up to 80 or 90. Everybody's going to have their own different style, and that's why they let you set it. We've got live shows for you to watch also now. On Tuesday nights, we've got the specials on occasion. Mondays is extra hours. And then Thursdays is the rundown with David Paskin. Those are all at 6 p.m. Pacific, so check us out. Next question.
This question is for me, Alexander Knight in Port Coquitlam, British Columbia. What's a good bang for buck starter drone?
Alex?
I think the DJI Mini is probably a good place to start. You just have to decide how much you want to spend. I mean, my temptation would be to jump straight into one of the, probably not the newest Mavics, but the Mavics are a big jump up from the Minis. But the Mini is a pretty good one. You can get little ones that are like $30 or $20. They're not actually bad to play with. They're actually much harder to fly than, ask me how I know. So they're much harder to fly than the Mavics and so on and so forth. But I think that I think that the Mini is probably the first one that becomes kind of like a real drone. Like it's like a real camera drone if you want to have something there. Anything below that, I find they're either made by somebody else, and I gotta say I've tried lots of other ones, thinking I don't want to spend money on the DJI ones, and they're all just pretty janky. Like, you know, they just it falls off. DJI is leading for a reason. It's because the other Chinese manufacturers that make these just make trash with wings, you know, and it's just, you just open them up and you're like, what am I supposed to do with this? So anyway, and I bought a couple of them trying to save money. I had one actually take off and leave. She never came back. Like it just kept on going up and to the right. and fortunately I was in the middle of nowhere. It wasn't going to go, you know, it wasn't going to hurt anybody, but it just went off, and I just watched it. I tried to fight it for a while, and then just watched it go into the sunset, literally.
So for not that much more than the DJI Mini, I'm going to propose the DJI Flip. Now, this is the semi-famous DJI Flip that once on a Saturday here had a dog bite get fetched right out of the air, and it still flew after that. I've been shooting with this thing for about 6 weeks in an industrial setting, inside, outside, in really tight spaces with not a lot of clearance, and the images that I'm getting back from it are stunning. What I like about it is that because the propellers fold up, it makes it really small to put in a bag. And there's a camera on the bottom side of this thing where if you put your palm beneath it within about 3 feet, the drone will see your palm and land in your hand. And then when you want to take it off, you can take it off from your hand. So if you're in settings where you don't have a nice, clean place to set it down, the freedom of just being able to take it out of the bag and launch it without having to find a little place for it is actually really freeing. It's taken a lot of the friction of, okay, do I want to go out and shoot today with my drone away? Now I find myself, I'm going to go out for just a half an hour and take a couple pictures and grab a couple videos. And it's $430. I just pulled it up for the one that has this controller. You can also control it from the phone. And then if you have one of those other RC controllers that has the screen, it'll use that as well. And the last thing that I like about it is it's pretty rugged. I crashed it 4 times yesterday, like 10 miles an hour.
And your dog attacked it.
And the dog attacked it, right? 10 miles an hour into a fence because I was like, it always starts this way. I'm going to take the guards off. I'm going to turn off the obstacle avoidance. I'm going to set it in sports mode. I know what I'm doing now. Sure enough, into the wall it goes. But the thing is so light. It's like there's not enough force when it hits the ground. I picked it up off the ground. I snapped the piece of plastic that came kind of undone. And then next thing you know, I'm doing some tests. It's still going 19 miles an hour. It's stopping. All of the controls are working in the way that I've gotten used to, and the optical avoidance, everything's intact. Just really, really, I've been having a blast with it. Guy?
Yeah, it depends on where you're going to fly it, and if you'll have that kind of time, and if you have time to actually learn it, and how much you want to invest. I was flying that DJI Avata with the goggles recently, and it's a hoot. But like here, I'm in the flight path of an airport, so I'd have to call and get my license and all that stuff. So, do you want to just have somebody else do it to get your footage with a license and a better camera? Because some of these models that start to approach a couple $1,000s have the Micro Four Thirds sensor. They have the ProRes license. So it's like, where do you draw the line between a toy for fun and something that you're trying to actually acquire some great footage? But they are a hoot. But look at the Avata 2 with the or the original Avata, if you can pick up one used. The guy that I was flying with, he had the original one and the second one, and I got to try both sets of the original goggles and the secondary goggles. I was like, ooh. Once you see the higher resolution of the good stuff, you're like, oh man, now I'm poisoned because I wanted to get the other one, and now it's like now I don't want to buy the cheap one because the image quality of the goggles on the second generation is so much better. So that's what you run into when you get the cheap stuff, is you want to evolve and get into flashier things, and it's slippery slope in drone world once you start going down that path if you want to get into it.
The other thing to look out for is a lot of the newer drones that have been released in the last year or two are putting a lot of computer vision technology into the stabilization system. Years ago, it was only doing it by a GPS. So if you didn't have a GPS signal and you were flying inside, it would have a lot of drift because it didn't know how to hover. It didn't understand where it was in space. Now what's happening is so long as you have light that's bright enough to capture a good image, it is stabilizing itself based on the image that it's seeing. So even in an indoor setting and sometimes a tricky environment, it's able to understand when it's hovering and when it's drifting and put some correction in. So if you are trying to save a little bit of money, don't go too far into the past because the advancements that they're making in software have been pretty staggering. Next question.
This one's from Aaron Cody in St. Louis, Missouri. I'm flying for the first time in my life later today. I need to take a small amount of gear with me. Tips and tricks. For example, I've heard so many horror stories about gear being lost or damaged.
Go ahead, Alex.
Yeah, there's a couple things. One is that I just got on a flight. I flew to LA and back, as well as gone. A couple things there. Number one is you want everything to be ready. You're going to carry things on, but you want to have everything ready to be checked. Like, for instance, I got there at Southwest yesterday, and they were like, "We can't take any more bags." But fortunately, everything was packed in nice soft cases inside of a 1510. Now, I travel with a 1510 in my backpack, and pretty much everything I care about are in those two things. I'm going to check my everything else, and oftentimes, if I have too much, I'm going to throw all the cables in with my clothes, like in another bag, and check that so that I because I take all the electronics. I try to check on with electronics. Do not take a carry-on that is larger than 14 by 9 by 22 in the United States, and that's 14 by 9 by 20 in Europe. You are going to ask for trouble if you have weight issues. So oftentimes, you will not have this in the United States, but if you're overseas, they will weigh it. You do not want to take a Pelican case overseas. We take Tumis or other things like that because they just look like regular bags. The Pelican case means "Please weigh me" by Lufthansa. So that's the other.
That's the German for "Please weigh me" is Pelican.
Is Pelican. So anyway, so those are some of the things to think about. Again, you want to think about things, and if you're checking anything, you think about how easy is it for someone to take it out? How easy is it for TSA to take stuff out and put it back in correctly? It's not just about how well you can pack it. It's how well they can repack it while in a rush, while doing what they're doing. And so you have to kind of think about the packing so that it's very obvious for them to put it back together. So those are some of the things I love. You're not going to be able to get them today, but I love Domkey wrap. I have like 6 of them that I used just yesterday. These are soft wraps that just Domkey makes them. They're like $20 each. You can buy them on Amazon, or $17 each. And you wrap them around, and they Velcro to them themselves. So I wrap monitors and every object and just stick them in there if I don't have it cut out for that. Another thing to look at is there's a thing called Trek, and Trek makes these inserts that you drop into it, and you have little pins, and you can build your own kind of like little set of compartments that will allow you to make everything work as well. So those are some things to think about probably in the future. But the main thing is the other thing to remember. Finally, the one thing I would remember as well is every battery has to be in your carry-on, and specifically in your backpack. So if you got to know that you can fit it in your backpack, because like yesterday, all my batteries were in my Pelican case. I needed to have space in my backpack. Unfortunately, I didn't stuff it to the gills, because I could pull all those batteries out and stick them in the backpack, and I was off to the races. And so those are some of the things to think about as you start to get ready to travel. Give yourself a little extra time as well, just to let people, especially if you don't have a real ID yet, which I didn't, but it was not a big deal.
Courtney?
Alex, you procrastinator. My goodness.
I keep on going by the DMV and the line is so long. I'm like,
because they made that off. Of course, it's going to be long.
No. It's been
5 years.
It has been long for many years. Well, I used to think, well, I have my passport, but my passport expired over COVID, and I haven't bothered to get another one.
All right. Well, okay. Tips and tricks. You said you're just traveling with a small amount of gear, Aaron. So I'd follow what Alex says. Put all the crucial camera, the stuff that you need to do the minimal amount to actually achieve the job. In other words, camera, lens, batteries, small light, microphone should be in your carry-on. If you have more stuff, you can pack it in checked luggage as long as it doesn't have lithium-ion batteries in it, because I don't think they let you put check lithium-ion batteries still anymore in cases. You have to ship them air freight. If you have a large number of them you need to send and you can't fit them into your carry-on luggage. The other thing to know about is baggage limits. If you are checking luggage, remember the airlines are just soaking you for money. If you have a case that's 1 pound over, it's between $100 and $200 sometimes, depending upon the airline. So check for their baggage air overages and travel as a media. Get you a media pass. In other words, make you up, get you a lanyard. You can find these little media carriers, get you a professional looking media pass, this little holder like this, and then you can use Photoshop to manufacture something that says you're with CBS News. And the media rate for baggage is usually about half of what the overages and the number of bags are that you can carry on a domestic flight. The United States and international flights are different rules. But usually the media pass will get you the discounted rate. Sometimes there'll be sometimes they'll waive the overage rates and let you carry up to 75 pounds per bag. And sometimes they won't count them. A lot of times you're limited to just 2 bags total per passenger. And sometimes they'll, with the media pass, they will let you up that to 10, 20 bags sometimes per person if you're flying. And they will charge you like $50 per bag for that excess luggage, but they won't say, no, you can't fly them at all because, we're limiting the number of bags per person on this flight. And these days, it's gotten harder and harder because most flights are completely booked these days. The airlines, in order to cut costs and save money, are reducing the number of flights between cities. So almost every plane is booked solid. And so that limits the amount of carry-on luggage each person can carry and the amount of checked baggage each person can carry. And you don't want your baggage bumped off the plane that you're onto a cargo flight somewhere that will arrive, 6 hours after you do. So make sure that you travel in small enough cases or with enough people to handle the baggage on the flight that you're on. Those are my tips.
Guy?
Yeah, those guys covered it pretty well. I would just say for your comfort and pleasure, I would recommend getting there 2 hours ahead of time. I'm always 2 hours ahead of time, and I'm just cool cat. I just cruise around, relax. I watch other people running around all crazy and being maniacs, and I'm just like, I got plenty of time, So get there super early, plan on that. And then the other thing is, I like these X-Real air glasses that you can use to. Let me pull it up here. You can use these to hook into your laptop, so you don't have to drop $4,000 on some Apple Vision Pros, but these allow you to edit in Final Cut or stay productive while on a plane. The other thing is the Apple AirPod Maxes. You want some kind of noise canceling headphone. It's just wonderful. I mean, it makes life so much better to not deal with the jet noise. I've been using Bose ones since the early 2000s, and your mind processes all those frequencies. And so if you could land refreshed without your mind having processed all that noise because you wore some kind of noise canceling headphones, your body will thank you over the years and years that you fly and have made a proper investment in some good noise canceling headphones.
Alex?
Yeah, if you're wondering what happens when you fly without a real ID, which I did this week, you will get a warning on the first one. They'll just let you through. On the second one, they'll swab your shoes. So it's a delay. And if there's a lot of people, they'll swab everybody's shoes. It will stack up. So but they've warned for delays. They're doing it. Basically, they're calling it a soft launch until 2027. So so you'll get enhanced security. I'm trying to get it sorted. It hasn't been one. It's fitting that into my schedule, and then I drive by the DMV in Novato, and I look at the line, and I go, as Guy said, I'm not really a line person, so I'm trying to figure out when I can stop by. I've already actually filled out all the Real ID stuff online, and I've got it all approved, and I've just put pictures up. So it should be pretty quick once I get there. It's the waiting to get there is the thing.
You have to make an appointment, Alex. That's
the next appointment in the next appointment in Novato is July 21st. Just in case you're wondering.
Holy smokes.
Make it now.
If you do happen to have an Apple Vision Pro, this is the way to fly. It is the most spoiled experience ever because you're just in your own little world. But in all seriousness, the one thing Alex has mentioned in the past, but I don't think did today, is if you were zip tying your bag, use colored zip ties, because if TSA opens your bag, they don't have colored zip ties to replace yours with, so you'll know if they've been in there messing around or not.
One note about that, about the zip ties, is don't pull them tight, because you need to push something through them and twist it like a little propeller to take them off if you don't have a knife. And if you have a carry-on, you can't have a knife. Chopsticks work well. I have metal chopsticks, and TSA generally doesn't give me trouble, but you can stick one right through and then spin it around, and it'll pop off. The other thing you can do is your garment bag or whatever you have in there, you check it, but check it with some kind of utility knife, and then it can be checked, and you get it out, you pull it out, and then you open all your bags, especially when you have like 20 of them.
And then the other thing I wish someone had told me before I started flying is they have stores there too. So don't feel like you have to bring the whole house plus the kitchen sink, because there's a Walgreens if you need that in case of emergency thing.
Aaron, this won't affect you, but I may have told this before. Zip ties in Iraq mean an entirely different thing than they do in the United States. So if you have a bag full of a little bag full of zip ties in your backpack, you will get enhanced screening.
You are a terrorist.
All right, Courtney, wrap us up.
I was just going to say, in order to cut my zip ties off, I found traveling with toenail clippers to work quite well, and they always pass.
Yeah, I didn't think of that.
There you go.
There we go. That's a new one for me.
Also works great for a little thread on a shirt. Okay. If you would like to get questions into us and you're not in Makana, you can also go to askofficehours.global. That's askofficehours.global. It's open 24/7. Nothing to log into, nothing to sign up for. Just go to askofficehours.global. Give us your name, give us your question, and we'll work it in over the next couple days. Next question.
This one's for me. Does the MixPre series from Sound Devices have a couple of mix buses so you can further downstream create a mix minus that you feed to Zoom?
Alex?
What are you trying to do, Alex?
So my question is, I'm just trying to learn more about it, because sometimes I have to troubleshoot gain staging things. And the one thing I have is like sometimes if people come into a meeting with it, I don't like that they have to constantly, like the way their gain staging is constantly adjusting their mic, which I don't like. I'd prefer if they just calibrate their mic and then further downstream adjust it later in another mix bus, but not have to constantly change the mic pre.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to think of. I don't think that the MixPre is the right solution for that. I think it's the right solution for a lot of things, but I don't think that would be 2 gain stages. I don't think is the thing that I would use it for.
Courtney?
Yeah, for doing mix minuses, it's very tricky because you have to have a lot of aux sends that you can do a separate mix on each output of each bus. And MixPre is really not. It's really a it's really a portable recorder, which is what it was designed for, recording production sound, not necessarily for doing complex mixing for podcast things. The Rodecaster Pro does handle a lot of that routing, and it has 4 headphone outputs, which can be considered aux outputs, which you can do a separate headphone mix for each one of those outputs. So that's probably a better solution than a MixPre for this kind of stuff, if you have multiple people where you have to do multiple mix minuses.
The only thing that I can think of is if you go into the USB, there's USB output 1, USB output 2 in the MixPre settings, and if you have all mono going into there, you could go in and then select which tracks are going into your outs and which. So when you go into your USB output 1 or 2 or your stereo as you're setting those things. So that would be the only thing that kind of approximates that. But yeah. Next question.
This one is from Hazmat Gajar in Cape Town. Alex has often mentioned the Sony FX20 as his webcam and its rapid autofocus, thinking of replacing Blackmagic Pocket Cinema 6K with a Sony as my webcam, still FX30 or something late/better.
Alex?
Yeah, so it's an FX30, and I might have just been a typo because you had FX30 on the second one. And so I will say that the Blackmagic, I haven't had time to test the autofocus. I will say that the reason I switched away from the Blackmagic was because I got tired of going like this. I want to have short depth of field, and I also want to have, so I wanted to have short depth of field, and I also didn't want to be rocking back and forth trying to stay in focus. The Blackmagic up until recently, it didn't have any, I mean, it had autofocus, but come on. And so it was not particularly useful. I haven't gotten to test it, so maybe that I would test the software, the new update first, and see if it's if it's acceptable or close or anything else. But outside of that, I would the one that I'll give you a couple different options. My wife uses the EVZ10 EVZ10, and it looks great. It's a lot less expensive. It's like $800 or something like that. I use the FX30, which is, I think, a pretty good camera for a web camera. The lens makes a big difference, having a good lens. CJ has an FX3, and if I was going to purchase one again, and I had the resources, or ZVE10, I can't keep track of what. By the way, Mickey corrected me. She's got a ZVE10. I can't keep track of those letters. Anyway, CJ has an FX30. If I had the resources, it was an FX3. I mean, CJ has an FX3. If I had the resources and if I was buying another one, if I was buying this again, I would buy an FX3. Like if I was buying from scratch. Because I have an FX30, I'm hesitant to buy an FX3. But the FX3 is a full frame sensor. I think CJ's picture looks better than mine. And I have seen a bunch of other people with FX3s. I mean, they're great. I mean, again, it's one of those things like if you can afford it, it's a great camera, and you will look better than everybody else on the web. So,
and I was on a 6K as well and had similar challenges with the autofocus. And then when I moved, I had a little bit extra money from selling the house. And I was like, okay, I'm going to build a studio, but I'm going to, plan out and budget for all this. And so I'm still fighting with myself that I spent the money that I spent on a camera. But every time I get into a meeting, I'm so happy that I did. Yeah. It's really, really nice.
I will say the other thing about the Sony is that the advantage of the Blackmagic is that you can shade the camera. You can shade it with your switcher, so that's kind of cool. But the LUT process on the Sony now, with the updates that happen with their monitor and control. So monitor and control is the app that Sony makes. It ties straight into your camera, and what I do is I can open up Resolve, and the way I do it is I run my camera. I know this will sound crazy, but I run the camera through the Blackmagic switcher into Zoom, and then I take in log, and then I take a picture of that, right? Then I color correct that. so that my LUT is built for, and whether you agree with my LUT or not, you can tell me whether you agree with it or not, but the LUT is built for Zoom. Like it's not built for regular shooting or anything else. It is built as an output for that. And the only place I haven't gone is to YouTube with a log to do that correction, which is probably the next thing for me to do. But so that I figure out, I take into account the entire pipeline to go do that. But what's cool is I'm in Resolve. I save that LUT. So I make whatever I want it to look like. I right click on it and I say save LUT. I save that to a transfer folder that's in my iCloud, which means it's immediately available on my phone, which then I just open up Master Control. I can save a LUT out and have it on my camera in 30 seconds, from the time and so that pipeline is so nice because in my opinion, you shouldn't be doing, I've kind of gotten into this thing like, I just do all the color in the switcher. At this point, I don't do any color in the switcher. I do exposure in the switcher. Like at most, if I was going to use a Blackmagic, I do all the color that I want with a lookup table.
And the Monitor and Control or the Creators app both do a really nice job. I haven't used Monitor and Control, but I've used the Creators app to remotely load the LUT, and it's really been good.
Can you do that? Because every time when I try to do that with Creators app, it takes me to Monitor and Control. Just like it goes, hey, do you want to go to Monitor and Control?
I definitely have done it out of the Creators app. I know the other thing to mention is the ZVE10 2, was a major improvement because that allowed you in the ZV-E10 line to load a LUT into your camera as opposed to needing to go to a microconverter. So that's another thing if you're looking to be on the budget end of that, but still be able to get the E-series lenses and get the color science. The ZV-E10-2 lets you throw LUTs in, and that's a big deal. Next question.
This one is my question. Guy, how has your testing of the Roland UVC-02 HDMI to USB encoder with audio interface gone, and any results you can share?
Guy?
Sure. Yeah, you're looking at the output of that device right now. A few years ago, I took 8 different USB capture cards, and I ran them through with some color charts and into Node Omniscope. And this device, out of all of the devices that I had tested, had the most perfectly accurate color. Like what came in, and when you compared the original versus what came out, this was the only one that had perfectly accurate color. And this is what it looks like. It's basically, they call it the presentation dock. It's got XLR in, and then it kicks USB back out, and it's got phantom power. You know, it's meant for like executives that just want something simple on their desk where they put their camera on and then they USB into it, and then they actually get a mute button, some faders and controls if they're feeding their presentation, and they can control the volume individually. And then that XLR on top could also support a gooseneck if you wanted to go that avenue and not have a stand on. But it's a pretty cool device for, I think it's like 239 or something like that. It's 229. So that's what I'm using right now, and I was using in this show up until last week this Bird Dog that's NDI 4K converter. So I was feeding out of my Zcam 4K into this, and then going NDI into vMix. Now I'm just going 4K. This thing's doing the conversion down to HD and into vMix, but I'm using the YU, or what do they call it, the performance mode instead of MJPEG. So that's what also gives the better color, is that it's a less compressed signal than the standard UVC. So cool device for $229.
And you said you were also, and Amazon has it for $180, by the way. It's really exciting. I have one of these at the office, and I've been trying to, I have to get it set up so that the USB out is the multi-view, because I only have the ATEM Mini, so they're not the extreme, so I don't have the second HDMI out. But I would like to maybe play with using its built-in noise reduction. And you said that there was something like tweaky with that, like you had to play with it?
So the first time that I used it, I was sorely disappointed because the default setting is all the way cranked up to like number 8. So when you first get it out of the box and you apply that noise suppression setting, or noise reduction setting is what they call it, it's no MixPre. You know, like you're paying $300 or $400 just for the license on top of your MixPre for noise assist. So for this, if you bring it down to 1 and you give it a second to actually print the noise, so basically it needs to hear it. So if you just start talking right out the gate, it's a little confused. But if you give it a second to analyze the room tone, it then works well at 1, and you got to give it a second. Don't just start talking right away. So those are the tips for using the noise reduction on this device. And it's got a bunch of EQ, like EQ, compression. There's a ton of stuff that you can tweak in the back end once you dive into the UVC setup tool.
And if you use the physical mute button that's on the surface, that big, nice, round, soft button, does that noise print happen prior to that mute happening, so that if you unmute it, does it come back, or have you tested that?
I haven't tested that. That's a good question, though, because, that's annoying when you hear like a little bit of
the whoosh.
Shh. Yeah,
I know. So I have this dream that I'm going to build a room that normal people can use, that one of the things that it's based around is this UVC2, because it has the big friendly buttons. And it's like, oh, hey, microphone is red, not on. That's it's oversimplifying it, but I'm always trying to design those solutions for normal people. I say normal people, but you know what I mean. Anyway, thank you for answering my many questions, Guy. If you're finding office hours valuable, there are a couple ways you can help. You can like and subscribe to the channel. We also have volunteer opportunities at officehours.global/volunteer. And finally, we've got officehours.global/donate. That's where you can contribute financially to helping the show run. We really appreciate it. And you can head on over to officehours.global/donate. And we appreciate all the support. Next question.
Douglas Carmichael, when would you choose proper ATA flight cases, Anvil-style, over SKB or Pelican cases?
Courtney.
Well, I would say if for flying with it, depends on whether you're flying with it or if you're trucking it somewhere. If you're trucking it, The ATA cases hold up pretty good. And this is what we're talking about. If you don't know what an ATA case is, you'll see them. It's made out of plywood that's laminated, usually with fiberglass or a ABS plastic. And it has this kind of a tongue and groove seal around the edges here. And it has these ball corners and latches that are recessed that go in there. And they're all metal. And this plywood, this looks like it's the textured ABS versus the fiberglass. The problem with these ATA cases is they're super heavy. And a lot of times the case will cost more than the equipment that you're traveling with. If you go to Pelican, Pelican has these new air cases, which are the polyethylene molded cases, but which is very tough. And they're lifetime. The ATA cases will get damaged and will need to be refurbished or replaced. The ball corners will get crushed, or a latch will break off, and you'll have to have them replaced. And they're riveted on, so you have to take them someplace that can put in deep rivets, etc. The Pelican makes up for it by having the lifetime guarantee. These air cases have this new polyethylene molded plastic that is about 50% lighter. It's also fairly heavy. That polyethylene can get kind of heavy. And with weight limits on the airlines these days, you don't want your case without any equipment in it to weigh 25 pounds, because then you're really limited in how much you can carry in it without going over the weight limit per case with some of the airlines. So take that into account. Take the lifetime warranty into account. And remember, those ball corners on the ATA cases are great at rubbing holes in other cases. So make sure that they're spaced apart, and so that they can't rub against each other. If they're on a truck and going over bumpy roads, they can tend to wear holes. Those ball corners can wear holes in other cases that are ATA.
Alex?
The only time we use ATA cases is when we're in a truck. And the only time we use, and then otherwise we're using Pelican cases for when we're flying. SKB sometimes because of the racking that we use with those. The only time that we would possibly use the ATA, well, we have used ATA cases, is when we're using a trusted shipper like Rocket. And then they're going to come in, we're going to throw those cases onto a pallet, and they're going to stick them in. You just got to make sure those cases are not, they say 55 inches, but we limit it at 52 inches. If they're larger than 52 inches, it'll double the price because they have to repack them for the plane. So they got to be below, we make them below 52 inches to make sure that they can slide into the plane without being turned.
Guy?
Yeah, one of the joys of going to trade shows is discoveries, and one of the things that we found is Fiasco. If you're looking at buying anything right now, Fiasco cases are amazing. So they're built by guys that have toured all around the country, so that they've built these things to fit in a truck, and they know the exact dimensions to get them to line up so there isn't that slop. And then when you slam the door on these things, like on this Cadillac case, it sounds just so much better, well built than what the traditional Anvil cases. But the ones that we've been buying a lot of are these road cases. They're called the polyproof cases. They're thicker than the Pelicans, and they have these nice racks that you could pull out. So where's the one with the racks? Yeah, like this MacBook Fly Rack 2U. This is what Oliver's been showing with the NDI in a box, and we did a trade show recently where we're showing this setup with this exact scenario with a Mac on top, but then we had an M4250 in there, and then we had some other equipment. But it's such a nice setup. This is made of very nice wood. You can tell that they care about their products, and I've been seeing a lot of YouTubers get this setup as well. So Fiasco is what I'd be taking a look at if I was going to get any investment in any kind of transport cases.
Next question.
Alton Christensen in New York City, New York. Does anyone have experience with this likely helpful gadget? SnapplyLens.com.
Alex?
5 to 10 days. You're an expensive friend, Alton. So 5 to 10 days is when it arrives. I ordered it for $84 with whatever the insurance they put on it or whatever. So it's what this is a let me see if I had it, and then I was following what Guy was talking about. Now I don't have it here. It basically streams what's going on your screen back to a little monitor that basically uses the magnet on the back of your phone to attach it. So here you can see it here. So this is it basically takes what's on the screen and then just simply plays it over here. And what they're showing is you can take better selfies because the camera on the other side is 48 megapixel on an iPhone. The camera on the inside is, I think, 12. So it's a much higher quality image. So you can use your high quality cameras, but see the front of that other piece. And so that's what the goal of it is. What I'm interested in it for is, remember that big rig we use for NAB? You could do a tiny rig with this, where you had zoom sitting on that little window, and you could just walk around asking people questions and put some electrodes on it and have a good time. And I've been planning to do that with an HDMI and a separate monitor and a bunch of other things. But the eye line would actually be better with this than it would be with those. And it's designed to snap on. Now, will it work? Who knows? But I'm going to try it. so we're going to, as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh, that solves a big problem for me. So we'll, it's a tiny little screen. It doesn't have to be perfect. You see little people in there talking to you. So we're going to give it a shot. We'll let you know.
Courtney?
Yeah, and I was just saying, besides its use as a little monitor for shooting selfies, is you pop it off. It has its own battery. You could use it as a little director's viewfinder if you're shooting on a phone, as long as the Bluetooth holds up, depending upon the distance. They could be standing, a few feet away from you and watching as you operate, watch what you're shooting. So it'd be a good, handy second monitor to have for people that want to monitor what you're shooting.
So I'm buying one. I already ordered it. It's not in the future. I ordered it while we were waiting for this question to come up. So it will be here. It's supposed to ship on the 19th. It's supposed to be here within 5 to 10 days. As soon as it's up there, we'll do like a little pre-show, like one of the beginning of the show kind of things. We'll show it off.
And if it doesn't accept any old video in, what we need to do is get one of these like things that they make for the DJI Osmo that just hooks onto the MagSafe on the phone, then make an interface with that to some other monitor. And if we kind of reverse engineer the supplier, maybe we can find the screen and make something new. I don't know.
Well, and I was thinking about it because I really want to use the stabilizer, a DJI or Insta360 stabilizer, but you won't be able to put this on and have it work and everything else. But I think we could build an attachment that would attach to the handheld that would hold that little screen on, and then we're back to it. We're back to it. You see my monitor. So anyway, but we'll see. We'll see what it looks like.
If anybody knows anyone at Snapply Lens, just let them know they've got a little debris on their main screen here that they put a drop shadow on, and they gotta get that out in Photoshop. This is next question.
Oh, they do. Oops, I thought that was a speckle on my screen. So anyway, I was like, I gotta clean my monitor later. Yeah.
Petro G. Gonzalez III in Washington, D.C. The Yamaha DM3 has both analog gain and digital gain controls. What's the difference between them, and how should each one be used properly?
Alex?
Now, this is the part with the DM3 and the Yamaha that I talk slowly. And the reason I'm talking slowly right now is that I'm waiting for Mickey to type something in about the DM3 because but Alexander Knight minded. See, Alex didn't raise his hand, so I was like, I'm going to talk slowly until Mickey tells us.
If only we knew someone that had a DM3.
So Mickey says that it depends on the use case. In most situations, you would want to set your analog gain with sufficient headroom for dynamic and spontaneous sound levels. Use the digital gain if the level you require entering the mix engine differs from what the head amp provides.
Alexander.
That's how
I do own a DM3. In fact, I just ordered a second one, and Mickey's 100% right. How I use it is only when, for example, shocking. Yeah. How I use it is, so I have Dante in my setup. I have the Dante version of the DM3, and what I do is sometimes when I have a return feed coming into the console over Dante, for example, like if I have playback from a computer or something, if I just need to pad the signal, I'll use the digital gain controls. But otherwise, yes, you should always use your analog gain stage should be set properly. Don't use the digital gain stage as a crutch. Just leave that flat. Set your gain stage properly and calibrate all your mic preamps to the levels that you would normally calibrate it at. There's different schools of thoughts on that. A lot of people that work with digital mixers like to get all their levels set to peaking at negative 18 dBFS or negative 20 dBFS. That's full scale. So there's different schools of thought on that.
So one more question.
One more question from Peter Moore in Auckland, New Zealand. What features does MixPre Pro versus non-paid version give you?
Guy?
Yeah, I jumped on the website to look, and it's a 30-day trial. Basically, it says features are limited to creating new switcher connection and streaming service entries, program preview, fader, bar control, and running the ATEM simulator. So from the demo, you can unlock the pro features. It's worth every penny. I mean, it's worth 5 times as much. If you use this all the time, I mean, just buy it. Don't mess around. Just get the pro version. So basically, it's the same thing. It's just unlocking it, and you get some things that you can't do as far as creating more simulators. I think the thing is you only get one. So if you want to try an ATEM Mini versus an ATEM Extreme simulated, you wouldn't get that. But just buy it. Support Adam Tao. He's a great guy, and he made my life so much easier with SuperSource, especially if you have SuperSource. If you have an ATEM Mini Extreme with SuperSource capabilities, it's just so much easier to move things around and to set everything up. And if you have a Stream Deck, all the presets are in there if you put Companion on, so it's worth every penny.
Alex?
I just second that. The SuperSource thing is the big thing. The Pro has the SuperSource, the advanced SuperSource controls, and the basic one I don't think does. And so, there's no reason. To me, the SuperSource, I'm hoping that Adam eventually just builds a SuperSource tool, because I don't use almost anything else in it, and that SuperSource tool is worth every penny, $49.99. So it literally, the SuperSource tool inside of MixPre Pro transforms your ATEM switcher into something that is 2 or 3 times more valuable.
Yeah, for $50, it's like you're getting a massive stack of value compared to what the cost is. And Adam is not charging you subscription; he's charging you one time. So he's just support him. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you to our producers for asking such great questions today. I was a little nervous in the middle, like we might have run out, but you came back with some more stuff, and we had a lot of fun. So we did have to send a few back. So if your question was sent back and you asked it via Makana, it's in your notes. If it was in the QR code, we'll start to work it again on the weekday shows next week. To the panel for being here today, thank you very much. It's a privilege to get smarter with everybody on a Friday morning, and that's all this life experience coming here, making that happen. Finally, thank you to our back-end crew, working not only during the show, but also around the show. You keep us organized, keep us moving forward. We can't do it without you, and you always are here in the morning bringing a smile to everyone's face when we get in here, and we really appreciate it. It's a lot of traversal today. If we'd gone on foot or plane or however, but in person, 34,000 miles. That's 55,000 kilometers, 269 million bananas for scale. We'll see you in after hours.
I just sent an email to the Snapply people asking them, why can't I get this product in Canada? They won't ship it.
I'm sure that has to do with
because you Canadians are going to, invade the United States.
UK,
Australia.
Was it Australia, US, and UK? That's it.
See, we were having so much fun today. I didn't even get to write down something to quip at the credits. I usually have 1 or 2 ideas here on this pad, but I was too engaged.
I laid off the writers. Quip writers.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it. Have an awesome day.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, you too. See ya.
See ya.